What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Wrestling in the Midwest. My name is Tyler Martin. I'm not sure that I even said what my name was in the last episodes, or the first episode, so I apologize for that. But without further ado, I'm gonna give you guys a little of a disclaimer here, because if you didn't notice in the title, this is going to be me talking about the Elimination Chamber results, and that means that I'm going to spoil the show for you if you haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it, don't watch or listen to this episode. We are on YouTube if you are listening, and if you are watching, we are on Spotify. So click the link, there's links in the description for all the ways to watch or follow the show, however you want to do it. But later on in this episode, stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about the Hall of Famer, or the future Hall of Famer, real soon. The Undertaker. We're going to be talking about some of the accolades and peak moments of his career. Not everything. Don't. Oh, you missed something. Like, no, I'm just talking about certain things. Like, we'll definitely have an episode in the future that's more dedicated towards all the stuff that he's done. But for today, we're just going to be talking about just a few things, because I don't want to make these episodes too long for you guys. Starting out anyway, because I don't want people to be wasting too much of their time on somebody that's just starting out. I want to kind of ease into having longer episodes. So for right now, we're just going to kind of keep them short. Like, last episode was longer than I figured it would be, just because of the material that I had prepared. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the Elimination Chamber results here in just a few seconds. So if you haven't watched the Elimination Chamber, don't watch or listen to this episode, okay? All right, now that I got that out of the way. The Women's Elimination Chamber match. I said Alexa Bliss would win, and obviously that didn't happen. Bianca Belair was the winner of that match. So I'm actually surprised by that. I really thought that, considering Alexa Bliss was coming back, that she would have a good first night back and win that match. But the problem that I have sometimes with WWE's booking, and I'm not super critical like a lot of people out there are, but when it comes to booking, I think anytime that somebody's going to return, wins and losses don't necessarily matter. That's not what I'm saying. But they do matter if somebody is returning. I think it's very important that if somebody is returning, that they win the match back. And this, the several matches in, just to kind of keep them strong. I don't understand why they would have Alexa Bliss lose that match. I really thought they would have her win, because I honestly don't even know where I was going with that. This is the first time on this show that my mind just went, boo. But anyway, I figured Alexa Bliss would win, but Bianca Belair won instead. I have a hard time saying her name for some reason. But anyway, the Usos actually attacked the Viking Raiders before the match, and the reason why I think that may have happened is they were running out of time because for the show. Because if you didn't notice, the show was kind of ended about 10 minutes before the hour. And the reason why I think they may have had, if this was the case, maybe they had this planned out the whole time, who knows. But I'm assuming that they had the Usos attack the Viking Raiders just so they wouldn't have a 10-minute meaningless match. Because that would have been one of those matches where they were running around trying to get all their stuff in, and it just wouldn't have. I think that match, especially being a championship match, deserved to be more than 10 minutes, in my opinion. So if that's the way they booked it, that was awesome on them to figure that out. Also got more heat on the Usos considering they attacked them. So definitely going to be a match in the future between those two, I would hope. Either that or they buried the shit out of the Viking Raiders for whatever reason, which still would get heat on the Usos, I guess. But more like, I wouldn't say that, though, because WWE makes the decisions, so WWE would have taken heat for that if that was the case. But anyway, so technically I was wrong on that, but since the Usos retained or maintained their championships since there was no match, I'm going to assume that I was correct on my prediction that they were going to win that match. So we're just going to say that I was right, just because, I'm always right. No, I'm just joking. I actually got a few things wrong, and we're going to be talking about one of them here in a few minutes here. So Drew McIntyre won against Madcap Moss, and that was, I said in the last one that was going to be an obvious win, but I actually gained a little bit of respect. I wouldn't say a little. I think I'd say a lot. I gained a lot of respect for Madcap Moss, considering that fucking bump that he took. Jesus. And you guys are probably seeing a visual if you are watching on YouTube. Huge bump. I suggest you, if you haven't watched the Elimination Chamber, even if you don't care that I'm spoiling it for you, I suggest you watch that match just so you can see that bump, because he took a huge bump on his neck. I don't even know what that move was called that Drew McIntyre was doing to him, but I imagine they're probably going to ban that move here for a while, because that's kind of a dangerous move anyway. But he he was over top of his body, like his back was pretty much with his back, and his legs were over here, and he did that thing where he would flip him over and he would land on his face or whatever. And Madcap Moss, I guess there was some kind of a miscommunication there or something. Now, I'm not going to say it was anybody's fault or anything like that. I'm just going to call it a miscommunication, because placing the blame is senseless at this point, because they're both okay and all that. Because I think obviously, sorry, my phone went off and distracted me. Obviously, Drew McIntyre would have been safe regardless. I don't think that would have been any kind of a dangerous move for Drew McIntyre to give. But Madcap Moss, somehow there was some miscommunication, and he tucked his neck instead of extended himself out. It's kind of like when James Ellsworth, he tucked his chin when AJ Styles gave him the Styles Clash. And luckily enough, AJ Styles saw that, and he helped him not die, pretty much. That's what I would say. But anyway, yeah, so Drew McIntyre won that, which means I was correct. So that gives me I guess we'll say I was wrong, even though the Usos retained their titles. They didn't retain. But anyway, I wish I could find a good word for what how they kept their titles. I guess it was a screw job or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, so we'll call it 1 and 2, being that I was right about Drew McIntyre and wrong about the other two. So the website, and this is what I was talking about just a second ago when I was saying I'm wrong about a few things. So I saw on the website that I was trying to get the last episode together, that they booked a match with Jesus, I said like 10 times. Mansoor versus Jinder Mahal. And I guess I should have done a little bit more research, but I figured that Mansoor would, because that's one of those things. I looked up Mansoor because I figured he'd have a match, but I guess he didn't have a match. So I'm really not sure what happened there. But anyway, so that match didn't happen, so we're just going to take that off the record, since I did make a prediction. But we'll go ahead and take that off the record. So the next match was Naomi versus Ronda Rousey. Why the fuck I'm so stupid. Naomi and Ronda Rousey beat Sonya Deville and Charlotte Flair. I don't know why I had such a hard time with that. But anyway, so I was obviously right about that one. Like I said in the last episode, obvious win for Ronda Rousey, especially going into WrestleMania. They're always going to have her win. Even because she did win the Royal Rumble too, so they got to keep anybody that wins the Royal Rumble, they got to keep them strong heading into WrestleMania, unless it's the opponent that, like, if they're in a match with, which technically, yeah, Ronda Rousey was facing her opponent, but she never actually got in the ring with Charlotte Flair officially. So anyway, the next match, I was right about that one, by the way. So the next match was Becky Lynch defeated Lita, which I figured that would happen. And so I think the purpose of that match was to get more heat on Becky Lynch, right? So a lot of people, and even I at first, was like, that was kind of stupid to have Lita have that match after she was saying that she wanted to have one more run and then have her lose it. And that kind of buried her. But at the same time, if you think about it, that was a storyline. So maybe the storyline was for Lita to say all that stuff, but really it was always going to be a plan for Lita to have the one match, and that would get more heat on Becky, given the fact that she is a heel. So that's what I think it was. So that's when I was saying about people being critical of sometimes the WWE, the way they book stuff, but I think that was a good booking decision, honestly, as far as getting heat on Becky Lynch. And Lita can come back later and kind of save herself on that. Like she can come back. And what I was saying before I realized what they were probably doing was Becky Lynch, or not Becky Lynch, Lita, if they were going to have Lita lose the championship, what they should have done, this is what I said before, it's not what I think now, but what I said before was they should have had Lita have a build-up phase up to the match and then lose it, and have her win all those matches up until she had the championship match. But it makes sense that they did it that way because it definitely put more heat on Becky Lynch, considering she beat her pretty easily, honestly. Like, it wasn't that long of a match. So, anyway, Brock Lesnar won the Men's Royal Rumble match. Did not surprise me one bit. That was who I picked, so I was also right about that one. I think WWE's attempt to keep Bobby Lashley strong actually kind of backfired, because they say that he got a concussion. That was, to me, that wasn't. I understand that maybe he needs shoulder surgery or whatever, but for them to the way that he supposedly got the concussion, storyline wise, it wasn't convincing to me, and I don't think anybody else would. I think everybody else would probably say the same thing. Wasn't a very convincing spot. That's what we'll call it. And I think that was part of maybe that was on Bobby Lashley, considering he was the one that took the bump the way he did. But at the same time, he probably wanted to protect his shoulder, so it makes sense maybe. But it seems like it kind of backfired, that they were trying to keep him strong and not have him get pinned. But if they would have had him come out and then lose, maybe. But I don't know. It was kind of a hard decision to make last minute like that, I guess. So props to WWE for actually trying and working with what they had. So we won't be too critical on that. And then Roman Reigns obviously beat Goldberg in pretty convincing fashion, if you ask me. I mean, he tapped him out. I know he didn't tap out, but technically it was a submission because he passed out pretty quickly going into that move. So it's going to be interesting to see Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I figured that was going to happen again. And I think what's happening here is Brock Lesnar sees that Roman Reigns is being pushed the way he is. I'm talking about real life right now. He sees that Roman Reigns is being pushed the way he is. And over the years, at WrestleMania, Roman Reigns actually lost both times to Brock Lesnar. So I think this is Brock Lesnar trying to help give back to Roman Reigns by going ahead and losing at WrestleMania. So I'm already going to call that one for when we do have the episode of my WrestleMania predictions. But I think that Brock Lesnar will lose to Roman Reigns. Now, I'll even get deeper on that before we head into what I have planned else for this episode. But, excuse me. I think that Bobby Lashley is going to be out until WrestleMania. It probably won't have a match, I'm assuming. And he might run in on that match and screw over Brock Lesnar, which will lead to a match between those two, maybe, again. So, we'll see. But that's a little too soon to call that match right now, but I definitely see Roman Reigns beating Brock Lesnar. I think that's a safe call. But anyway, so the main event segment of this episode is obviously the Undertaker Hall of Fame news, and I got some of his accolades and high points of his career on my phone. That way I don't forget because I'm recording. That usually is what happens to me. But he was 24 years old when he debuted, which pretty amazing feat right there. I mean, not many of the wrestlers now, besides Maxwell Jacob Friedman, were that young when they started and that good as soon as they started. So it's pretty cool that he was that young. Most of them are in their 30s or getting close at least. So anyway, he has the best win-loss record in WrestleMania history. Everybody knows that one, which is why I'm mentioning that one, because it's the most notorious Undertaker fact, and part of the reason why his legacy is going to last, honestly. That was a 26-2 WrestleMania record. He went 21-0 before he got beat by Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. So he defeated some of his opponents multiple times. I think Shawn Michaels he did 2 years in a row, and then Triple H he did 2 years in a row. I believe Kane was more than once too. I don't know if they were in a row or not. But anyway, even Stone Cold Steve Austin had bad gimmicks in the past. But every Undertaker gimmick in the WWE was on point, if you ask me. And that's hard to do too. Like, the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin himself, arguably the greatest of all time, especially in my opinion, if he can have a bad gimmick here and there before he gets good, it's crazy that the Undertaker, all his gimmicks were amazing. So that just goes to show you how amazing the Undertaker truly was. And here's I'm going to put this picture up too so people can see it. Here's some more accolades of the Undertaker. Some of his career achievements, and this one mentions again the 21-0 streak. He was a 4-time WWE champion, WWF, WWE, whatever. 3-time World Heavyweight Champion, WWF Hardcore Champion, 6-time WWF World Tag Team Champion, WCW Tag Team Champion, 2007 Royal Rumble winner. His and I was talking about gimmicks. His in-ring names go as follows: the Dead Man, Big Evil, the Phenom, the American Badass, and the Lord of Darkness. Like I said, all great gimmicks, and that's hard. Not to him, but it's hard to have that many successful gimmicks. Usually when somebody changes a gimmick, it's because one's not successful, and that wasn't the case for him. He was just constantly adapting to the times, and it was really cool that he was able to be as good as he was as consistently. Like, that will never be done again, especially the streak at WrestleMania or any other pay-per-view. Hell, I don't even think anybody's won 21 straight pay-per-views in a row. So, amazing career that this man's had. And I also want to say one more thing before I wrap this thing up. The loyalty that he showed for Vince was amazing, because WCW actually offered The Undertaker a bigger contract than what WWE was offering at the time. And The Undertaker said, "Nuh-uh, I'm staying with Vince because that's where I belong." I think that's also goes to show you who he was as a person. So, lots of respect for this man. Appreciate all the years that he put in to mold this business into what it is today. And nobody will ever hold a candle to half of the things that he's done in his career. So kudos to him, and it's a long time coming that he's finally going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So I think that should have happened a long ass time ago, because I know that for a while, or I should say up until a certain point, it was retired people that would be put in the Hall of Fame, but they've kind of broken that habit here in the last several years, because I mean Goldberg, he's a Hall of Famer and he's been winning titles as a Hall of Famer. So I think the Undertaker maybe should have been inducted into the Hall of Fame probably after his match with Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 31. Just because he came back strong after losing the streak. I think that would have been a good time to put him in the Hall of Fame. Not to retire, but to just be acknowledged for all his accomplishments. But I think it's fitting, and maybe this was his decision to be done wrestling before anybody even talks about Hall of Fame. They may have offered him Hall of Fame on other occasions. Who knows? But anyway, I appreciate everybody watching and or listening. And let me know if how you guys did on your predictions, and we will see you in the next one. See ya.